Stack, AJ Green, Marquez Pope, Reggie Brown.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Herschel Talkers. We got a great show for you today. Super podcast. We got two great guests coming on for you. First one's going to be Uncle Lou from LouTube. I'm a big fan of his. Also, we're going to have former Georgia player Sean Bailey, wide receiver, who's going to be on a little later. But we got Big Sean on the phone. How we doing?
Doing great, man. Excited about these guests. For those of you who don't know, I refer to Uncle Lou as the Larry Munson for millennials. This guy wears his heart on his sleeve when it comes to Bulldog Nation, and nobody game in, game out agonizes the way Uncle Lou does these dogs, man.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Hey, how we doing, Uncle Lou?
Hey guys, good morning. I'm doing pretty good here.
Thanks so much for joining the show. We just got to jump into some questions here for you. Uncle Lou, first off, I wanted to get your opinion on who is the worst fan bases in the SEC. Could it be Voltards, the Gumps, the Taters, USC Junior? Who'd be your opinion, the worst fan base?
That's a tough question. Now, dumbest, I think, would probably be the Gumps. I mean, a lot of them have only been football fans since 2008. That's sort of the knock on them. You know, they don't know anything about Alabama football or football in general prior to 2008. A lot of, bandwagon fans. Now, that's not totally Alabama's.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. You just continue about the Gumps.
Okay. Yeah, I would say the Gumps are probably the dumbest fan base. A lot of them are bandwagon fans. So, and I don't think that's totally their fault. Any team that dominates like that for a decade is going to have a ton of bandwagon fans. But because of that, I think it makes them the dumbest. I think the worst fan base is probably South Carolina. They have absolutely no legitimate reason to be excited or think they have a chance of winning the East. But every single year, it seems like they think they are. So I think those two would be at the top of the list right now. Baltards have been on the top of the list for a long time, but a lot of them are starting to come around to the realization that with Lyle, Butch Jones, they're never going to accomplish anything meaningful.
Yeah, speaking of Butch Jones, we'll transition into that. Could you give us on your prediction? I believe you had a video on it yesterday of who's your prediction of who's going to get fired next year in the SEC, or your opinion?
I think it could be a rough time for SEC coaches over the next 2 years. I really think that as many as 5 or 6 coaches could be fired over the next 2 years. I think the first one will probably be Sumlin at Texas A&M. I think he has to win 9 or 10 games to keep his job, and I just can't see a way possible for A&M to win that many games. They're not beating Alabama. You look at the next rung of teams under that, LSU, Mississippi State, and Auburn. Do you really think they're going to beat any of those 3 teams? And even if they beat one, there's just too many losses, I think, stacked up. They could lose this weekend to South Carolina. It's just gotten to be a bad situation there with Sumlin and the death threats and the racist remarks and things like that he's gotten. I can't see him making it past this year. So my money would be on him for the first one to get fired.
Yeah, and it's never really a good thing when you got people in your administration saying that you're pretty much toast.
Right.
What would you say Butch Jones has got to do to keep his job for Tennessee?
The problem with Butch Jones is, the buyout is an issue, I think, at Tennessee. They just got done paying off Derek Dooley last year and Lane Kiffin last year.
Wow.
The buyout for Butch Jones is in the double-digit millions, 10 million plus to buy him out right now. Who's going to take that job realistically? Now, I know Tennessee fans talk about Chip Kelly and Bob Stoops and, Todd Gruden and all. None of those people are taking that Tennessee job. It's just not happening. They're probably going to have to do what they did when they got Butch Jones, which is go to a mid-major, a non-Power 5 team and try to strike gold with an up-and-coming coach. And unfortunately for Tennessee, they haven't had much luck doing that. They're 0 for their last 3 with Dooley, Kiffin, and now Butch Jones. Now, if the locker room situation gets much worse, I could potentially see something happening at the end of this year with Butch Jones. This whole Shy Tuttle situation and Butch Jones yelling at the media, calling them fake news. I mean, you don't have to be a genius here to figure out this situation. I mean, somebody hit Shy Tuttle in the face. I mean, I've seen the picture. The guy's eye, it looks like he went 12 rounds with Mike Tyson. It's swollen shut, cracked orbital socket. And Butch Jones is saying he slipped and fell on a helmet. Well, so, something's going on in the locker room. When you watch them play last weekend against UMass, it looks like the team has just given up on Butch Jones. So I do think it's possible that they fire Butch Jones at the end of this year, but I think it would take probably a significant meltdown. They'd have to lose definitely to UGA, Alabama, LSU, and probably Vanderbilt to close out the season. And that might be enough to make them pull the trigger, but it's going to be hard for that buyout. And I just don't know if the administration of Tennessee has the stomach for another coaching search. I mean, they'd be on, their fifth coach in the last 10 years if they did that?
Yeah, something like that.
Hey, dumpster fire with the trash can for sure.
That trash can, man. Oh, my God. They just made complete trash can. And, they're right. They say, well, a lot of other teams have gimmicks like that, and there are other teams even that have trash cans on the sideline. To run up and down the sideline, waving that thing up in the air like a maniac. I mean, you couldn't pay attention to that game. And then Tennessee fans, we've had that trash can for 2 years. Why are people just now talking about it? Because you just now hired Corky from Life Goes On to run up and down the sideline waving that thing around like a surrender flag. I mean, it was completely ridiculous. I mean, they were the laughing stock of college football. You couldn't turn on a radio show, a podcast, or a sports show on TV without people making fun of that damn trash can. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous.
That's awesome.
That is true. Uncle Lou, do you think Tennessee is one of those programs that I kind of equate to being like Nebraska, where they kind of had their era, but it was more about just having the right coach at the right time, and they're probably going to have difficulty finding that national prominence again like they did?
Well, as much hell as I give Tennessee fans about their whole let's blame Dooley thing that they love to do, there is some truth to that. Now, things were starting to tail off a little bit at the end of the Philip Fulmer era, but Derek Dooley really did do a lot of damage to that Tennessee program. I mean, I give them hell about it, but they are right to a certain degree. He really bottomed that program out. Now, I mean, look, as long as Nick Saban is in the SEC, no one is winning multiple SEC titles or back-to-back, or, I mean, you can just forget about it. And I tell Georgia fans this all the time. We have a good shot to win the SEC next year or this year. That would be great. Don't turn around and be disappointed if we then don't win it next year. Nick Saban is probably the greatest coach in the history of college football, and he's going to run a lot of good coaches out of the SEC. And that's part of the SEC's problem now as a whole. The coaching in the SEC right now is down compared to what it has been in years past, and I think that goes back to Nick Saban. People don't want to go up against him. But a program like Tennessee, I mean, they don't have the best high school talent in the world, but they're kind of lucky. They're right next to Georgia, and we've got more than we can sign in any given year. So they're able to come into Georgia and get some good athletes every year. They get a few from Florida. They get a few other places or whatever. But I think Tennessee really should be a 9 or a 10 win program a year. Realistically, there's not a whole lot of difference in the history of Tennessee's program, between Tennessee and UGA. And expectations really should be about the same year in and year out. Tennessee fans should have an expectation to win the East every year. Now, it's not going to happen when you're in a division with Georgia and Florida in November. And that's where Butch Jones has failed. A lot of times by the middle of October, Tennessee's season is already over, and the fans aren't going to stand for that.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. How do you feel about the Georgia heading back into Knoxville Knoxville this weekend. Especially after 2 years ago, you had the injury of Nick Chubb, and you had what we would call knee fest Aaron Murray's last year in the program.
Keith Marshall blew his knee out, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people have gone down. A lot of Georgia players have gone down on that cow pasture in Knoxville. Obviously, I'm praying nothing like that happens this year. But the bottom line is anybody can get hurt on any given play. I think it probably has more to do with bad luck at Tennessee than it does anything else, including poor field conditions. Does that help? Probably not. But realistically, I think it's hard to blame it on that. As far as the game goes, in a previous life, I used to gamble on football games, and if there's one thing I learned, it's don't overreact when you're gambling. Mississippi State beat the brakes off of LSU. I wasn't worried at all that Georgia was going to beat Mississippi State. A lot of people overreacted to that win. Georgia has to be careful with that this week. We beat the brakes off of Mississippi State by 4 touchdowns. I don't expect that to happen at Tennessee. Do I think Tennessee is better than Mississippi State? Probably not. I think Mississippi State is probably a better team than Tennessee. But they usually play us close. The spread is about 7 or 8 points, depending on where you look. It wouldn't surprise me at all if this was a 10 to 14 point game. But I fully expect Georgia to win the game. We're better at almost every position on the field, and we definitely have a coaching advantage.
Yeah, which I think kind of provides an interesting segue. How would you rate Kirby Smart now in year 2 of his tenure as Georgia coach in comparison to year 1?
Well, if you're taking year 2 by itself, you've got to give it, I think, an A+ so far. How many teams lose their 5-star starting quarterback in the first 5 minutes of their first game and be 4-0 with 2 wins over top 25 teams? I'll tell you one team that couldn't do it: Florida State. Florida State lost their starting quarterback in the first game, and now they can't win a damn game. And as much as I hate Jimbo Fisher and what they stand for down there, he's won some big games, but they lost that quarterback, and now they can't win a game. So you've got to give Kirby Smart a whole lot of credit. A lot of that has to do, of course, with Jake Fromm. I mean, I don't think even Fromm's biggest support, I don't think expected him to play as well as he's played. I mean, you couldn't have asked for any more than what you've gotten. Fromm. Special teams are night and day difference this year from last year. The defense, which I don't think anybody really had any questions about a Kirby Smart coach defense, even from day one. But it gets better every single game, and it's still getting better. If our offense ever figures out a way to score 35 points a game, we won't lose a game for the next 4 or 5 years. I thought Kirby Smart underwhelmed last year. I thought there was a couple of losses that fell squarely on his shoulders. Tech loss to Vanderbilt. Play calling was terrible. But all that's been in the first 4 games.
Yeah, I'd agree. Almost to what Bill Parcells or maybe even Bill Belichick's first year tenure was like as head coaches, where it's just kind of an adjustment process. Probably similar to being, a starting quarterback in the SEC for the first time, where, you have that adjustment, and then if, somebody's kind of worked their salt, they kind of seem to come in their own by year 2.
Yeah, be smart on last year and say, okay, he's a first year head coach. He's got a freshman quarterback. He's got no offensive line. He went 8-5. Realistically, that's about what any reasonable person would expect given that situation. Problem is expectations were sky high, so 8-5 wasn't good enough. So most people probably gave him a C or a C- last year, but it's night and day difference. This year, I don't see him making the same time management mistakes that I saw him making last year. I've been not necessarily a supporter of Chaney in the play calling, but I have found myself defending him, I think, more than a lot of people.
Yeah.
pretty good job last year of protecting the Georgia offense from its weaknesses, which obviously were a terrible offense freshman quarterback. Now you can say the play calling was terrible, but with freshman quarterback, we had 8 interceptions last year. It could have been a lot worse than that. It's not too bad. So I gave Taney the benefit of the doubt. That might be a better way to put it. Rather than saying I'm a Jim Taney supporter, I think I gave him the benefit of the doubt last year, and I think he's called this year. And I think you're seeing the evidence of that on the.
Hey there. What the hell happened? Come on. Hello?
How realistic of a chance do you think Georgia has, assuming that they can get back? I know this is putting the proverbial cart before the horse, but assuming we end up back in Atlanta this year against Bama, how good of a shot do you think we've gotten in that matchup?
I think this Georgia team right now is the best Georgia team I've seen since 2012, and we might be better by the time the season is up. We might be better than that. To me, when I watch Alabama, they're not as good as they were in 2000. They're still really, really good. I call Alabama just to make the Alabama fans mad, but they're still really, really good. But I think if Georgia's defense continues to improve and the offense keeps getting better from week to week and the receivers stop dropping passes, I think we would have a legitimate shot to beat Alabama. Now, we would be an underdog, probably a 7 or 8 point underdog. Even if we went 12-0, we would probably be a touchdown underdog to Alabama. But once you get out on that field, if we had to play Alabama 5 times this year, they probably beat us 4 times. But we don't have to play them 5 times. We only have to play them once, and anything can happen. And if you'd have told me at the beginning of the year, we can go 12-0 and play Alabama in the SEC championship game, I would say, sign me up. Let's roll the dice, take our chance. I would take that chance every time.
No, I'm with you on that. I mean, you got to be in it to win it, right?
That's it.
All right, well, Trey, what else you got?
Yeah, another couple questions for you. Favorite Bulldog of all time, in your opinion?
Oh, that's a hard one to answer. I usually break that down into at least centuries. I could say the obvious. Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
I really like Eric Ertz. A little more modern times, of course, David Pollock. Boss Bailey was one of my all-time favorite defensive players. Blue and Thomas Davis, back when they used to let safeties hit people. Those guys used to take people's head off for a living. You're not allowed to do that anymore. But I actually like Quincy Carter. I'm in the minority there, and I get that. I think probably, well, I was at the game when we finally beat Tennessee in Athens for the first time. And what was that, 99 or 2000? And we tore the goalpost. Yeah, and we tore the goalpost down. I was at that game, and I went out on the field after the game, and Quincy Carter was standing there, and he high-fived me and all that. And I was young at the time, so that was a big deal to me. So I don't know. That's probably why.
Yeah, that's so cool, man.
Of course, Aaron Murray. I don't care that Aaron Murray wasn't good enough to play in the NFL. I don't care that he didn't have a rocket arm. I don't care that he wasn't tall enough or fast enough. I would take Aaron Murray as my quarterback every single day of the week. So, I mean, that's
Yeah, great, yeah, really great answers. Yeah, transitioning into that, I was going to ask your opinion of greatest quarterback in UGA history, or in your opinion.
I think Fran Tarkenton has to be on that list just for all the things he accomplished in the NFL. He's probably the most accomplished NFL quarterback to ever come through UGA. Now, Stafford obviously is putting up monster yards. And if the Lions can get a little bit better and Stafford can get a couple of playoff wins, then we'll see. I was always a fan of Quincy Carter, E.J. Sutton, David Green. I mean, Georgia's had some pretty good quarterbacks, especially in the last 15 or 20 years. But Aaron Murray, I like Stafford. A lot of people didn't like Stafford. I always liked Stafford too, but it's hard to name just one. Buck Bellew? No, he wasn't no good with it.
All right, all great answers. My favorite is Aaron Murray. He was tough. Like his senior year showed me a lot how he had all the walk-ons and everything after the injuries. And the run against Tennessee that time, he like kind of tucked it and ran it for 30 or 40 yards all the way down. I thought that was a great win. I know they went, 8-5 that year. But I just like his grit and determination, having a lot of his players out. And then finally I wanted to ask, worst quarterback in UGA history?
Oh. Worst.
Go ahead.
Lambert, Cox, Harasinski, Hudson Mason.
Wow. All the recent ones. The guy that I had recently was Greg. I looked him up earlier. Greg Talley from Valdosta. I think he was there from like 91 to 93. He had 1 year. He had 6 touchdowns, 9 picks. Had a pea shooter for an arm. He was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Quarterback right before Eric Zier. That was the Greg Talley.
Oh, I left him off the list too. I don't know how you can forget him. He owns just about every record.
Yeah, he was great. No. Yeah, and then transitioning to that, we'll give it a last one. Worst coach you thought of UGA ever?
Oh God. Ever? I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me without being around in the 30s, 40s, and 50s and all that. It's hard for me to name one of them. I mean, starting with Dooley, the worst one for sure was Goff. I mean, he was terrible.
Ray Goof.
I didn't like Ray Goff at all. Donnan. Now, I don't think Donnan was a bad coach. I mean, Donnan won 10 games. I mean, they fired Donnan because he couldn't beat Georgia Tech. So, I mean, I get that. And then Mark Richt won 2 SEC titles with Jim Donnan players. So, Jim Donnan wasn't that bad, but Ray Goff was a dud.
Yeah. I agree.
Uncle Lou, why is it that you think that Mark Richt was never really able to get it done in Georgia? I mean, he came close. I mean, you had a couple coulda, woulda, shoulda years. 2012 comes to mind. 2007 as well. People forget that Tennessee really kind of eased into that SEC title game with some close wins over Kentucky and some other programs.
Yeah. I tell people this all the time. Mark Richt, look, it takes a little bit of luck to win a national title. I get that. Unless you're just a totally dominant team, which comes around every once in a while. But Mark Richt had 3 golden opportunities to win a national title in his 16 years at UGA. And the fact that he didn't capitalize on one out of those 3, what the bad taste in my mouth with Mark Richt. If he won 2007 or 2012, people would look at Mark Richt a lot differently than they do now, and he may even still be coaching an athlete. Now, and the thing is, people say, well, he's going to get to Miami and he might win a national title down there. Well, he might. He's undefeated and wins a national title at Miami this year. That still wouldn't mean firing him was the wrong thing to do. It was obvious to anybody that paid attention. Mark Richt just didn't have the passion and the drive and the motivation to coach at UGA anymore. It just wasn't there. And sometimes, not just with college coaches, just people in general, a career change or a location change can re-energize somebody. And maybe that happens to Rick and he gets down to Miami and he figures out how to beat top 10 teams and dominates Florida State and wins them a national title. That might happen. If that happens, that doesn't mean we shouldn't have fired him. He was never going to get back to that point. It was clear that he had lost it. The man would walk into a post-game press conference. You couldn't tell if we won or lost. He had zero emotion, none. And the hugs on the, you dropped a pass, a touchdown pass. Oh, you missed a kick. Let me give you a hug. No, there's no place for that. This is college football. You're here to win. I mean, you drop a game-winning pass. You don't. I know these are kids and all that, but they don't need hugs. They need to be running stadium stairs. I just got tired of it, and luckily the majority of people got tired of it too. I think it was time for a change. And I don't think anybody's complaining how let's start this year and looking really, really good.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Hey, Uncle Lou, we're against the time here, but yeah, we really appreciate you coming on today and answering all the questions. All really great answers. What's a good way for everyone to follow you on social media? I know you got LouTube.
Yeah, of course. If you just go to YouTube and search for Uncle Lou, you'll find my channel. I upload college football videos every day. They're mostly Georgia centered and SEC centered, but I do drop from that from time to time. And if you just go to Twitter and search for Uncle Lou, you'll find me. And if you really want to find me, you can go to Facebook. And if you type Uncle Lou in Facebook, and you have enough detective skills, find me that way.
Let me tell you, if you haven't watched any of Uncle Lou's videos, you are missing out because they are YouTube gold.
Oh, they're awesome. The infamous Tennessee Hail Mary loss is awesome. I think it's great.
Yeah, that was brutal. I tell people all the time, I say, I could live to be 500 years old. I'll never see an ending to a game like that again. Back-to-back Hail Marys, basically. I mean, that was just unbelievable. I mean, from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows in about a 90-second span. I mean, that was just unbelievable.
It was.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. I enjoy y'all's show, and I can't believe y'all are having. Who'd y'all say Sean Bailey is coming on?
Yeah, we started hitting up some ex UGA guys. We're going to try to get them on here. Try to build it up a little bit.
Have y'all talked to Terrence Edwards?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I'm in a Facebook group that he's in, and I talk with him sometimes in there. But y'all stay in touch with me. Y'all know how to get in touch with me, and I'll see if I can get y'all in touch with Terrence Edwards.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Hey, thanks.
Appreciate it. Y'all take it easy.
Hey, thanks, Uncle Lou. Go Dogs.
Dogs.
No.
Yeah, welcome back to Herschel Talkers. We got guest number 2. We've got former UGA wide receiver Sean Bailey. How we doing today, Sean?
Doing good. Happy to be on.
Yeah, thanks so much again for being on.
And you got to preface it with the great Sean Bailey. I don't know how young some of our listeners are out there, but Georgia last won the SEC title in 2005. My man Sean Bailey had pretty much a big game. It's really the reason I think we won that game. What, you had 2 touchdowns, 77 yards, something like that?
That's great.
Yes, yeah, that was a fun memory. Hopefully, after this year, it won't be the last year that we won the SEC championship.
Yeah, agreed on that. So you graduated in what? Your last year was 2007. You graduated somewhere between there and 2008, right?
Yeah, I graduated that December of 2007.
Okay. So what have you been up to since leaving Athens?
So, shortly after leaving Athens, I tried the NFL route. I signed as a free agent with the Kansas City Chiefs. Was there for half a season and went to the Carolina Panthers for a little bit.
Really? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, was on the practice squad. I never made an active roster. But shortly after that, I got into real estate. I've been doing real estate for I don't know, maybe 8 years now. And then one of my passions and something that I'm really excited is I recently partnered with a company called Breakout Training. And we do a lot of different individual and team training with a lot of schools in the metro Atlanta area. So it kind of keeps me close to sports and football in particular.
Oh,
That's pretty cool. So have you had the opportunity to work with any of the young guys on the current Georgia roster?
Yeah, actually, one of the cool things that we did, because we do leadership development as well. So a couple years ago, Coach Rick brought us in, and we did a freshman symposium, and we got to work with all the freshmen that year. And it was actually Roquan Smith, his freshman year, Terry Godwin's freshman year. So those juniors right now that we see excelling on the football field right now, we had an opportunity to actually meet with them and do some different things with them their first day on campus.
That's cool.
Very cool.
So,
yeah, speaking of that, Sean, speaking of Roquan Smith, could you see from the start, like, this guy was going to be as great as he is? Because he's like probably one of the best linebackers I've seen in Georgia recently. He's just great. He's all over the field. He was all over the field. I was actually at the Mississippi State game last weekend. Could you tell from the start when you saw him, like, this kid's going to be good?
Oh, without a doubt. Just even in the classroom when we were doing the leadership stuff, you could just tell he was just a natural born leader. He excelled from day one, was a hard worker. You heard Coach Rick talking about him, and then as soon as Kirby comes in, he's impressed with him as well. I was fortunate enough to play with a couple good linebackers, Odell Thurman and Rich Curran, and he reminds me a lot of both those guys.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of Odell, it sounds like, if I've heard correctly, I think he's back now at Georgia, I guess, intern with the strength and conditioning program, right?
He is. And, I've got an opportunity to talk to him a couple times, going up there to visit. And I think it's a perfect fit. He's a Georgia guy through and throughout. And, he has a lot of wisdom, a lot of things that he went through that he's able to share with those guys. And in my opinion, it's going to be close by the time Roquan finishes. But as of right now, Odell's probably the best linebacker that we've ever had at the University of Georgia.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, it's just kind of nice. Mostly on the media, all you really hear is about all the things football players are doing wrong. But when you hear a guy that's kind of able to turn it around and get through that, I mean, that's what life's about. You're going to get knocked down, you got to get back up, right?
For sure, without a doubt. And I think his story is just completely awesome. Everything that you just said, dealing with adversity, kind of fighting through. He had a lot of ups and downs and a lot of circumstances that hit him at a young age. But he's definitely turned it around, and he's making a positive impact for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And so I think you had mentioned, too, you grew up in the Atlanta area, went to Milton High School, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So when you were going through the recruiting process, obviously, thankfully, ended up in Georgia. Where else were you looking to maybe go, or were you interested in?
Yeah, the recruiting process has changed so much in these last few years since I've been there, but it was pretty crazy for me at the time. I was fortunate enough to be highly recruited. I had planned on taking, 5 visits. I had them scheduled out to go to Florida, go to Stanford, Virginia, Florida State, and Georgia. And I went to Florida State first and went to Georgia. And to be honest, at that point in time, I knew I was going to Georgia for sure. And I was just kind of getting tired of the whole process. So I ended up committing early. And after I committed, I canceled everything else, and just stuck with Georgia from there on out.
So speaking of being a dog through and through, so it's my man here.
Awesome.
So going official and it's a deal.
For sure.
And you kind of played at Georgia at an interesting time too, because obviously you got to experience an SEC championship with some of the best quarterbacks in Georgia history. I mean, you got to play with David Green, you got to play with DJ Stockley, you got to play with Matt Stafford as well, right?
Yeah, I tell everybody I'm probably one of the most fortunate receivers to come in the air that I came in with, because you probably go, top 10, maybe top 5 Georgia quarterbacks, and all 3 of those guys are going to be in everybody's at least, top 10 at the least, but I would say top 5 for sure. And being a receiver, there's no complaint having any of those guys throw you the ball.
What were each of them like in terms of quarterbacks? What did you like about each one of them in terms of like leadership or plays, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I started as a freshman and sophomore with David Green as the starter, and I think he was the perfect quarterback for a young receiver to come in, because he was a natural born leader. He was that type of guy that would take you under his wing and really teach you the little details of the position of the offense and all that stuff. And then kind of transition into Shockley. He bided his time. He was loyal to Georgia. He added the dimension of being able to run and throw, so it opened up a lot on the backside for us. And then I was reversed with Stafford. He was a freshman my senior year. Actually, he was a sophomore my senior year, but he was still a young pup coming in. So I was in more of a leadership role and kind of doing the reverse of the David Green type thing. So it was everything came full circle. So it was awesome, and had great experiences, great games with all 3 of those guys.
No, for sure. When Matt Stafford was coming in, was it pretty? This guy for great things.
Oh, without a doubt. From day one, you knew he was first round. Quality. He had an NFL arm. In 2006 when he came on campus, his arm was NFL ready at that point. It was just a matter of him coming in and gaining a little bit of experience and being able to step up as a leader. But you knew he was probably wasn't going to last more than 3 years at Georgia. The talent's on there.
Yeah. And so I know we're kind of jumping all over the place about this. So your first experience, 92,000 between the hedges, is that kind of a surreal experience? You find yourself saying, man, what the heck am I doing here?
Oh man, it's unbelievable. It's something that it's hard to describe, because people ask, all the time, about that, and the atmosphere in the NFL, the atmosphere in high school, it's completely different. You talk to a lot of guys that have 10, 12-year NFL experience, and they'll tell you almost to a T that playing between the hedges, playing in front of 93,000 red and black screaming fans is there's nothing that compares to that. And as a youngster, as a freshman who's never experienced it, like you said, it was surreal. It took a minute for me to kind of catch my breath and realize how fortunate I was to be in that situation.
Yeah, well, you certainly made the most of that opportunity as well. So, you got the last name Bailey, which obviously is a rather famous name in Bulldog Nation. How often do you get confused for being related to Champ and Boss Bailey?
Oh, almost on a weekly basis. People swear up and down. They almost think I'm lying to them when I tell them that we're not actually really related. They're from South Georgia, I'm from North Georgia. But Champ and I also both wore the same number, number 4. So that makes things worse as well. So.
And they had a cousin that was on the roster at the same time too. Like, what was it, Kenny Bailey?
Yeah, Kenny was there my freshman and sophomore year. So yeah, it was that, and then Sterling Bailey came after me. Another S Bailey name, and he's not related either. He's from Hall County, but it just seems like sometimes different places have that name that just keeps going there, and it's pretty cool to have that Bailey name that is real familiar with Georgia.
Yeah. Speaking about Georgia, man, how do you feel about the Dogs this year?
Man, I feel good. I feel we're like our defense is where they need to be, especially what happened to our freshman quarterback. You tend to lean on your defense. But one of the things that I think that we've struggled with in recent history is our special teams, and a lot of people don't understand how important that part of the game is, and how you can win and lose a lot of games with that. And this year, our special teams up to this point has been one of the best in the country. As that continues, it's really going to bode well for us, as we get into these tougher games for sure.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's so underrated, but I mean, the difference between having good special teams and it's really points, because obviously the further you pin them down in their own territory, the more first downs they got to convert, the more yards they got to go to score, right?
No, without a doubt. And when you play in the SEC, where everybody has 5-star recruits, and everybody has the highest paid coaches, and everything's just so competitive. A lot of times these games come down to the last minutes, but the biggest difference within those games is who was able to turn the field position in the special teams area of the game.
Oh, sure. So we spoke with you too. Mentioned about kind of that you were kind of Georgia unique time because of the quarterbacks, but Kirby Smart was also there for an assistant, I think, for a year when you were in Athens as well, was he not?
Yeah, Kirby was the running back coach in 2005, the year that we won the SEC championship. And Kirby was actually a GA. I think I mentioned earlier that I took 2 visits and came down between Georgia and Florida State. But he recruited me while he was at Florida State, so we kind of had a relationship from that. And then when he came in 2005, I love playing with him, playing for him, and all that stuff. So I was sad to see Coach Rick go, but if there was one person as a coach that could replace him and come in, it was without a doubt Kirby Smart for sure.
Yeah, I mean, was he somebody when he was an assistant that you could just kind of tell had an upward trajectory in the coaching profession, or he just had that it factor?
Oh, I knew it when he was a grad assistant at Florida State. I knew just the way he was. I went and watched a couple practices. He was one of my recruiters, so I talked to him on the phone on a weekly basis. I could just tell from that point on, early on, that he was going to be something special in the coaching world for sure.
Yeah, and it seems like, and obviously you know a lot more about the ins and outs game than me and Trey do, but it seems like that first year was a bit of an adjustment period for him, and it's a lot more macro managing the game this year than he was last year. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's a challenge to go from a coordinator where you're just focusing just on one area of the game to being a head coach where you're not only focusing on the field stuff, but you're focusing on off the field stuff, and all the decisions come to you as well. I go back to Coach Rick. His first year, I think he went 8-4, and he was coming off of just being a coordinator. He didn't have any head coaching experience either. And that second year, they went 13-1 and won the SEC in 2002. And I see a lot of that in Kirby. I think both of them were about the same age in the early 40s. So I think Kirby has us on the right track. And I think in year 2, year 3, year 4, we're going to see major things.
So speaking of that, if you had to put your Kirby visor on as a joke, how would you handle the Jake Jacob Eason? I know this is a heated topic going forward. If you were a coach, or your opinion?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I talked to a lot of my former teammates about this, and it's all over the place. But it's my feeling that you have to go with your hot hand. You have to go with the chemistry that's going on. It's unfortunate that Jacob got hurt early on, but Fromm has come in and he's been poised and he's led us and he has us on a roll. So I think as long as he's hot, as long as he's competing and playing to this level, putting us in positions to continue to win, it would be hard for me to break up that chemistry and everything. But at the same time, this is the SEC. Eason is a talented quarterback, and he really could be one play from being back in there, or something could change. So I hope that he's mentally prepared for that. We could easily need both those guys to accomplish the goals we want to accomplish this year.
Yeah,
that's true. And looking at the rest of the schedule, do you feel like there's a pretty good chance for when I look at the schedule anyway, I think every game on there, Georgia has a real good opportunity to win. Do you feel the same way?
I do for sure. There's some times where you have a team and just chemistry and talent wise, you're hoping and praying that things go right your way. But as I look at our schedule and I look at where we're at, I feel like up until the SEC championship game, we can only beat ourselves. I think we have the talent. I think we're playing together. I think there's the chemistry there that I don't think we're going to get just whooped or outplayed by another team. If something was to stumble, it's because we shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah. And of course, obviously, we're getting up on to into October, and obviously the end of October, early November brings about Jacksonville. You played in that game a good number of years, and you'll often hear fans debate whether or not Georgia's at a disadvantage because that in Jacksonville is so close to the University of Florida. Do you feel like playing at Jacksonville is a disadvantage for us?
No, I don't. The stadium is split 50-50, so the crowd is even on both sides. The crowd noise is even on both sides. Road trips, they're good for us. I do think mentally, in the past, there has been a mental block there that's prevented us from performing. I think that mental block has been lifted. And I think going forward, and I think as of recent, that mental block hasn't been there. I think sometimes in the past we had teams that were better and should have won, but the mental block was there. But I think now and going forward that if we have a better team, 9 times out of 10 we will win.
Did the celebration help with that, getting over that mental block?
I honestly think that was the turning table of it. We've won a lot, not a lot, but we won a lot more games than we did before that. Before that, I think we won maybe 1 out of 20 or 2 out of 20 or something like that. And we've been competitive, as of recent and got some wins in there. And I think things have just changed. I think this year for sure we'll see how the tide has changed down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean that's it's lining up right now. Like knock on wood, we should probably both be competing for the SEC East. Me and Trey usually go down there. We were down there for the last repeat where Georgia won, and I was down there in 2007 when for the celebration. So certainly looking forward to that game again. It's always fun. It's just kind of a nice change of pace. You kind of mentioned it not really necessarily being an away game with the crowds being split 50-50. In your experience, what was the most difficult environment to play on the road?
Tough stadium.
For me, without a doubt, hands down, it was in Baton Rouge playing LSU. I went there in 2003, my freshman year, and you couldn't hear. David Green was in the huddle 2 feet away from me, and I couldn't hear a thing he was saying. It was incredible. it was, one of those things that you'll remember. Hopefully, that's how a lot of people feel when they come into Sanford Stadium. But as a visitor, going to different places, I would say without a doubt for me, LSU was that place.
So if you can't hear them like 2 feet away, how do you guys figure out what the play's going to be?
Oh, we had to go to hand signals. We did a lot of no huddle, and we got the plays called in from the sidelines and all that stuff. And I mean, you're literally, when the huddle is breaking, I'm going up to him and getting right up in his face and saying, "Hey, what play did you just call?" Like that type of thing.
Oh man, yikes! Yeah, I think part of what makes LSU so tough too is that they, like in Athens, which it's loud without question, but there's that. Yeah, you got the hedges, you got the space between the field and the crowd. I feel like LSU is, the fans are right on top of the field.
Yeah, no, they're right on top of you, and that stadium goes, straight up. I think one of the things that hurts us a little bit at Sanford Stadium is the bridge. So, a lot of that noise can escape the stadium, where some of these stadiums are fully caged in, which makes a difference. And it's always cool when you're at LSU running out, and you run out and you're running right into the tiger cage, and live tigers right there too. So that kind of adds to the dramatic effect as well.
Yeah, man, talk about getting psyched out. Jeez Louise. Mike Bobo was your offensive coordinator, at least I think for the last year or so, right? Because you had Neil Callaway before that. Was he somebody that you could tell was going to be, another one like Kirby that just had that upward trajectory? You could just tell he was meant to be a head coach at some point.
Yeah, Coach Bobo was my main recruiter for Georgia, and I mean he was awesome. He was young. I think he was 31 years old. At the time when I was being recruited, but he recruited me the best. And from the other guys that I talked to, that he was their recruiters, he was awesome with them. And then when I got in there, he was the quarterback coach for a while, and like you said, he was promoted at the end of my career to offensive coordinator. But he's an innovator. He's extremely smart. His offenses are awesome. They translate to the NFL, but he also adds a little bit of the spread stuff. So he has the pro form to attract the Matt Staffords and the Easons to the offense that want to play in the NFL. But he also can add the spread into there and get you 3, 4, 5 wide receivers, no huddle type thing. So he's not just stuck on one thing. And one of the best things he did while at Georgia is he geared his offenses towards his personnel. So, we had a lot of great running backs. We had Noshawn and all those things. So he did different things for individuals within that team to make his offense come alive. Where you have some coordinators that just run a certain offense, and if you don't fit that scheme, you might not be good for a couple of years or whatever. He always changed a little bit to fit the personnel that he had.
Oh, sure. How was he as a teacher in terms of, teaching you these concepts and these plays? So I'm sure it's got to be a major adjustment going from, a high school playbook to, college playbook.
No, without a doubt. And that's the biggest thing. There's probably two things to be a college coach. You have to be a great recruiter, which means you have to be a people person. You have to relate to that generation. Every year you're getting older, but your recruits are getting younger. So you got to be able to adjust and be able to relate to them. And that's something he did well. And then also, being a T&O's, or say, hey, I played, college ball, or I played in the NFL. But if you can't take it to a 17 or 18-year-old level and make them understand it, it doesn't matter how much wisdom or how much knowledge you have if they're not grasping it. And I say Mike Bobo is excellent on both fronts of that, as that recruiter that can come in the house and sit down with mom and dad and make your family feel comfortable. And then also, when he has a 17 or 18-year-old in the classroom and he's drawing up the plays and telling you why you're running your route like this, or why you're breaking it off with this type of blitz and all that stuff, making you really understand and grasp it. I'd say that's probably what sets him apart from a lot of other OCs out there, or now head coaches.
Yeah, well, Obviously, that played out. I mean, I think, the last year or so at Georgia, what did we average? Like, something insane, like 41 points a game. And, now he's on to Colorado State. So, obviously, no me, Trey, we loved him as offensive coordinator. And, obviously, are continue to pull for him at Colorado State. And I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah, for sure. I try to catch as many Colorado State games as I can. Joe Cox is on that staff. He's a tight end coach, so I played with him at Georgia, obviously. So watching those guys, Will Friend was a GA when I was at Georgia. Now he's the offensive coordinator for Bobo. And same thing with Miami, Coach Rick and Thomas Brown, who I played with. So it's pretty cool seeing different guys you play with, different coaches you play with that are doing good things at different places around the country.
No, for sure. What do you think, from a lesson in life was maybe the biggest lesson you took away from Coach Rick?
I'd say without a doubt, you read and you hear different things and different experiences that people have in college, and not all of them are good, but Coach Rick cared for all of his guys so much more off the field than on the field. So just shaping us to be, good fathers, good men in the community and all that stuff. So I was fortunate to have, two great parents. I still have two great parents that raised me to be a great man. But, Coach Rick kind of extended that and I was at Georgia for 5 years. So those 5 years, really shaped who I've become, because that was me kind of going from a boy to being a full on man. And those are 5 important years for any young man that goes through. So I appreciate so much what he did for me off the field versus what he did for me on the field.
Oh, right on. Well, congrats, and thank you to Mark Rick, and congrats to Sean Bailey, because the old adage goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So,
for sure, without a doubt.
So you're selling real estate now. For any of our listeners in Atlanta that are looking for a home, where can they find you at?
Yeah, look me up on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I would love to help anyone. It's one of my passions. I've been doing it for 8 years now. So yeah, if anyone is looking to sell or buy a home, look me up. I would love to work with you.
All right, and
Awesome.
then I guess for any of those young athletes too out there that are in need of training, where can they find you at?
Yep. So our company's called Breakout Training. You can go to breakouttraining.com, or we have a Breakout Training Facebook page as well. We probably have about 20 to 25 former Georgia guys that do different camps with us and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool to get all the guys back to do different things within the community.
Yeah, right
That's
on.
good.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Sean, for coming on and giving us some of your insight into Bulldog Nation. You certainly didn't have to do that, but we obviously appreciate a good bit, and we're obviously pulling for you, and certainly wish you the best, and hopefully we'll have you on again here too at some point later on down the season. Hopefully we're still undefeated and on our way to Atlanta. So.
For sure. No, thank you for having me. I'd love to come back anytime you guys want.
All right, awesome.
All right.
Awesome, Sean.
Good.
Thanks so much.
All right, you guys take care.
Hey, go Dogs.
Yeah, you too.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What's up, man?
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Hey, yeah, real nice guy.
Oh, yeah. I thought his interview went pretty well, too, don't you?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, you hit on